The scope is where we would start to define the level of information need based on the geometry, the documentation, and information requirements. And this is both a data and a visual way of defining those requirements so that teams can really understand what they are signing up to. And in the grid, we will see columns that represent the use or the purpose of that model or of the information that is required. We will see the dates at which they are required, the teams that are responsible for the content required, maybe if it's 2D representation or if it's a 3D representation. We will see checklists, we'll see notes, attachments, and information requirements, and really, really detailed requirements that are assigned to certain teams that you can see maybe the handover from one team. Maybe early on, the architect is responsible for the stairs. Later on, it might be the structural engineer. And being able to define that early from templates, make it easy for the owner to understand what the assets are maybe at handover and what information requirements are needed to slim down those responsibilities for the rest of the teams as they go through the design and construction process. And doing it visually is really pretty cool and makes it a lot easier for teams to agree before they end up spending a lot of time wasted on duplicate effort like we saw in the light fixture example. So let's take a look and move on to the scope. We're defining here in the scope the task requirements. Again, we could use different templates to be able to create these straight out of the box, or we could create from an empty scope and simply use the library of content on the left-hand side to drag and drop into our project. I'm going to cheat and let me hit refresh again and bring up that library of different templates, and we can use those to start off. And in this example, let's say that we are building a model for 3D coordination. We could have multiple purposes, but in this example, I'm going to use that 3D coordination as an example. And what that's going to create us is the column for 3D coordination, the list of all of the possible items that we might need, and then also define which items are required, who is responsible, maybe some notes or attachments or links or checklist items that are required. And all of that is based on our standard or based on our historical data or based on our project standard. So here it's created us, let me fold all of these up so that we've got just at the folder level, and I can open up the folders to show what we are requiring maybe from an architectural perspective, what we are requiring from a structural perspective. And you can see that this set of requirements is defined at the 3D coordination milestone. If we open up one of these, so for example, here, the concrete stairs, you can see that there is a description. There are checklist items, there are maybe information requirements, and also attachments and links out to other places. We can see that it's assigned to the structural team, and we can even start to understand the details as far as what is it going to be tracked by, who is it assigned to, what the status is. So we jumped quite quickly into this, but let me show you also how we would build this up from the library on the left-hand side if we were to build that from scratch. Maybe we would just create a new folder. So if I call this new folder, and inside of that folder, we might want to drag and drop certain items from our library. And the library actually is an element library. It's a maybe even conceptual level items. So depending on what type of requirements you're talking about, and even document requirements as well. So things like bills of quantities, calculations, clash detection reporting, drawings, etc. And this library is continually evolving. It's translated into a lot of different languages, but it's also complemented with a bunch of templates that maybe if you are following, for example, the uniformat folder structure, we can start to see how this would be built out, and we can start to drag and drop and use this content to create maybe a coded based hierarchy of requirements as well. Let me go back to the element library and close that up. And then let's take a look at just dragging one item. So this is a group of items, the column foundations, and I'm going to drop it. As you see, if I move this, and you can see the tree structure where I'm going to drop this inside of that new folder. And now it's inside of here. We can move the folders around. We can drag these and drop them inside of if we wanted to. But what we're starting to do is build the grid. We're building the list of requirements down the left-hand side, and we would be building what is required inside of this milestone for this set of items. So for column foundations, for 3D coordination, what is it that we require? Maybe we want to just click once and say we require something in 2D. Maybe we would like to represent that in 3D. Maybe we would like to have more detailed representation. Maybe it's that we only require a certain item. So if we were to just say we only require the cages, the reinforcement, or we also require the concrete and maybe the zones of influence underneath. So you can see we're building up that set of requirements. We can drag these around so that we can start to have more order to it, adding things like checklist items, do this and this, and this. We start to have checklist items. We can add information requirements from a library of whether it's IFC-based parameters or whether it's your own defined requirements. This set of requirements is then available through the rest of the workflow and can be exported or validated inside of the workflow as well. So lots to cover. Just to sort of show you that list of requirements, and maybe if we added some more as well. So let's take a look at maybe, let's add another milestone. So at the top, maybe we would like to add another milestone for the estimate, and maybe another milestone for the handover and building commissioning. And maybe these are based on groups. So you can see them in the background that are showing up. Maybe we would like to base these on the phase of a project, and maybe we are following SDDDCD, or maybe these are stage based. So this might be stage 4, this might be stage 6, and we can drag and drop these around. You can see it all updating the background. So if we go out of here, you can see 2 of these milestones, 2 deliverables that are based on stage 4, and then one of them, the handover in stage 6. Really flexible to define, but the key really is that we are showing much more than historically where teams would maybe use an LOD number rather than a very descriptive and defined set of requirements that are following something called the level of information need, a concept which is the framework by which the ISO 19650 standards are helping to define requirements that are purpose-driven and built in a way that can be then automatically checked later. Okay, so we've covered the plan. The plan was creating the documents and following those standards and using the templates out of the box. The scope that we've just defined is defining who needs to do what and when. Now,